I want to show you how to install a boot manager on our FreeDOS virtual machine. We need a boot manager in order to boot multiple operating systems. Each of our RTEMS applications is its own operating system, so we want to be able to conveniently boot our different RTEMS applications as well as FreeDOS, which is already installed on our drive. So I'm going to install the GRUB boot manager, and I'm actually going to use a Linux to install the boot manager on our FreeDOS drive. So what I'm going to use is actually a System Rescue CD that you can download from system-rescue-cd.org. Click on the download link and download the current version. At this time, it's System Rescue CD 6.0.3.iso. Again, that's an ISO image which I've previously downloaded here. You can see it at the bottom. It's 861 megabytes in size. We'll actually need to create a new virtual machine to boot this CD because our FreeDOS virtual machine just does not have enough memory to run Linux. So I want to do new, and then I'm going to call it System Rescue CD. This is actually just going to be a temporary virtual machine because we're just going to use it to install the GRUB boot manager, and then we won't need it anymore. For the type here, select Linux, and then select I don't know, I think any other Linux 64-bit is fine. Next. I think the recommended amount of memory is fine, 512. We don't want to create a virtual disk drive. We want to actually use an existing one. And from the menu, we want to actually connect our FreeDOS virtual disk to this machine. We need to connect it so that when we boot our rescue CD, we can actually access that drive. And now from the storage link, I want to actually associate the CD with that ISO image, the System Rescue ISO image. Again, if you need to, if it doesn't appear on the list, browse to it here and select it, and then OK. And then I want to make sure that we're actually, you can see in the boot order, it's going to boot from floppy and then optical, which is what we want. We want to be able to boot from the CD-ROM. So now we've got this rescue CD set up that will boot Linux and will allow it to access our FreeDOS drive. You want to make sure that your FreeDOS machine is powered off. You never want to actually have two different operating systems accessing the same drive at the same time. So make sure your FreeDOS machine is off, and then we're going to start up our System Rescue CD. So click on the Start button. Here's the splash screen. I think we can just press Enter to actually allow it to boot. This will take a few minutes, not long, to actually come up with our machine. Let me put it back in the video screen here. Let's see. So it's booting up a version of Linux that's on the System Rescue CD now, and we're finally at a boot prompt. Right now the drive is associated with the virtual machine, but Linux doesn't have access to it. I need to actually mount the FreeDOS partition under my Linux operating system, and so I do that with the mount command. That FreeDOS partition is the first drive is SDA, the first partition on the drive is SDA1, and then I'm just going to mount it under the /mnt directory, which already exists. Okay, so this should mount it. Now if I actually do an ls under MNT, I see all of the directories and files that were created on my FreeDOS image. And then now I'm ready to actually install the boot manager. So grub install, and I want it to actually copy its some of the grub files into onto my FreeDOS partition. So I'll use the boot directory option, and then I'm installing grub to the drive, not the partition, but the drive itself, which is /dev//sda, and then press enter, and that's it. I should be able to shut down this virtual machine. Okay, I don't actually need this one anymore, so I can delete it, but let me go up to my FreeDOS machine and start that, and let's see what happens now when I start my FreeDOS machine. Okay, so I see something a little different now. I've got the grub prompt here that appears. Previously it booted directly into FreeDOS. Now I've got the grub prompt that will allow me to boot several different operating systems. Right now I'm going to go ahead and boot FreeDOS. So I set the root directory for grub to, so all these different operating systems use different notation to refer to different drives and partitions. Under grub, the first drive is actually HD0. This corresponds to SDA under Linux. And then the first partition on the drive. And then I have to use what's called the chain loader technique to actually load FreeDOS. So I put chain loader, and then the +1 refers to a particular block, and then type boot. Okay, and then now it's actually booted FreeDOS. Okay, so that's pretty inconvenient to type that every time I want to boot into FreeDOS now. Grub actually allows me to create a menu. If you'll notice, I've got a grub directory. This was created by that grub install command previously. So if I cd into the grub directory, here I will create a configuration file that will be read automatically by grub when I boot. So it's grub.cfg, and I'm going to put in a menu entry for FreeDOS, and then there's an open curly brace, and then I'll hit tab, and then I'm going to type in those same commands that I had previously when I was working directly with the grub prompt. Set the root directory, chain loader +1. This is all rather arcane. I know you'd have to read through a lot of the grub documentation to see what these commands actually are. So Alt FS, Alt FX to exit, and then now let me try to reboot. This time I should see the FreeDOS menu, and then I can just hit enter and then boot directly into FreeDOS. In a later video, we'll actually extend the menu, add additional menu entry items to make it convenient to directly boot our RTEMS images. But that's it for this video.